JB here. Friday, March 14th, Pi Day. It's actually 316. Gosh, I should have came on audio at 314. That would be something. 314 on Pi Day. But really quick talk about the markets, some names I'm looking at, go from there. And I mentioned this morning, don't forget, tomorrow is the Ides of March, one of my favorite days. And I don't know why I keep saying that, but take a look at the markets. S&P up 2% as I write this, right near the highs of the day. The VIX is down 12.5%, down at 2160. A market reversal from yesterday where it just like I wouldn't call it a coordinated, but just seemed like the melt just nonstop, no bid, no but slow and meticulous to the downside. And today I wouldn't say it's the reverse because we kind of gapped and ran out of the open, a little turbulence around 10:15 or so, and then boom, over the 560 threshold. And you beware the Ides of March. And then boom, up near highs by the noon hour, some choppiness. I guess reports POTUS was going to speak at 1, but now at so hopefully there's no headlines into the close. I got a little nervous. We got down to 560 around 2 o'clock. I'm like, oh no, please, this will be a great opportunity for the Bears to really cause some some fear into the weekend. If they were able to reverse it, we get red. Yeah. So thankfully, I mean, we still have 43 minutes, knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's funny, you read the headlines and I mean, we're up 2% today. And it's like, oh, despite consumer confidence at 29-month lows, we haven't seen consumer confidence at levels since mid 2022. The market like shook it off. And I think, again, some of this data is like backward looking. I mean, we already knew the consumer confidence was already coming in weaker than expected. So it's not really a surprise. Uh, Hopefully it levels out a little bit. You have to think with all the headlines and everything that's just going on. It doesn't create certainty, right? And with certainty around economic conditions, that consumers might have a little more confidence, but uncertainty, they don't have as much confidence. Anyway, funny stuff too. Take a look at a SPY, and I draw my lines. I say this. I don't know. Maybe 2 months ago, I put my last annotation on the chart, or maybe it was back at the January. But take a look at a SPY chopping in the range for the last 4.5 sessions. So you look at a SPY down, all the way down to, well, it broke out to 550 yesterday for a flash, but it looks like that held. If we get a green session on Monday, you can start making, I wouldn't say a V reversal, but maybe we get some more legs up to the 200-day moving average at 570. I would really love to see it close over 563 today. That's that other support resistance handle. And then again, you look at the ADX and the PPO. It's actually supposed to be the ADX and PPO, but I have it swapped here in the chart. But they are pinching, and they're still pinching. It doesn't mean we're guaranteed reversal, but when it happens and they start spreading apart as opposed to pinching together, that's when the fun happens. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if it does, we could see back up to 580 or so in a very short period of time. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll find out next week. As it's not much in the way of catalyst. We get the Fed on Wednesday. But I mean, what's the Fed going to say? Is Fed Chair Powell going to be force his hands to talk about some of the tariffs and what they might do? Is he going to spin a little more dovish? I mean, if he does, that certainly could bode well for the markets. Yeah, but you start searching for headlines on the markets today. It's, oh, we averted a government shutdown. I mean, we've had government shutdowns before. It hasn't caused a 2% rally in the market. So to me, it's oversold conditions. Nice bounce here today. In the VIX, it's like, I was trying to figure out the VIX in September and October when it was elevated despite the market going up, and now it's doing the reverse. It's not as elevated as one would think considering the market and where we've come from, and it's going the other way. So, maybe the 0-day expiration options. There's huge volume on those. That might skew the VIX more so than it used to in the past. Maybe that's some of the reason. I don't know. Anyways, that's kind of the SPY. Just watching 552, 553 area, then to 563, which is the October lows that we hit, and then all the way up to that 200-day moving average of 570. And you pull it out. This is a long-term chart here. Underneath that, I'm not putting my bull horns on. I'm not putting my bear horns on. But if we do start to reverse next week, that 540 is the next big level, and I thought maybe that would be the test, but we might have to wait for that. Also, some nice, and I always try and find different like historicals and charts to kind of help paint some color or at least give some context to what's going on. And this is a nice little chart. I forget who shared it, but you can go to the Fed. I don't know if it's the Fed. St. Louis has the Fed charts, but this is economic policy uncertainty, and this is at highs not seen since COVID, right? And then before that, you go back to 2011. I think 2011 was the debt ceiling and debt downgrade. So don't hopefully don't get started on the debt downgrade. One day, one of these days or weeks, someone's going to start throwing that out there. That U.S. debt's going to get downgraded. But it's funny. You go look and they have three major criteria that they look at to create this uncertainty index. And the first one is it scans headlines on 10 major national publications, including the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and what have you. So I don't know how much credibility you give to this, but interesting nonetheless. So I'll keep an eye on that if it starts to take. I think it's only a monthly read. Also, March 17th, right? Is that, well, happy St. Patrick's Day, but the new update on the Atlanta Fed now, Atlanta GDP now will be out. So that'll also be another, maybe if it can reverse back, because it was negative 2.8, then it upticked negative 2.4, I think was the last one. If it goes back maybe negative 1.5, I think it'll go well, because everybody's starting to tout this recession, right? Was it today? Another headline: 55% probability being priced in by the 5-year treasuries of a recession coming in the next 12 months. I mean, the GDP now for Atlanta is pointing to one quarter, right? So, I mean, they removed the back-to-back quarter as being a recession, right? Because when it happened, they said, "Oh no, it's not a recession," back in 2022 with COVID. But we'll have to see. All right, so that's overall markets, and then again the VIX, just crazy to see. Kind of, you would think we're just back in December and into January, the VIX had these spikes and moves, and not as violent as this. So I guess trying positive spins. I always try to find some silver linings. All right, so now quick, some individual names. ABC, XYZ, Square, Block, whatever you want to call it, finally back into strikes. It has a lot of different moving parts, with some of it being the crypto side of it. And so, I mean, you see, it just got destroyed on earnings. It was already kind of selling off, and then it got destroyed on earnings, and earnings weren't that bad. There's just a lot of, and then they just got the FDIC approval to be financial side of things. I think a lot to like, at least for a short term bounce, maybe long term. But I did get some calls into next week. They were getting close to being a double early in the morning, then it kind of chopped around. So I'll hold those into next week as a bounce play. Intel still hanging around that 24 handle, just can't go in. The thing about Intel, now you see headlines, the best performing chip stock 2025 so far, outperforming NVIDIA. The thing is, it seems like everybody and their brother, sister, in-law, friends, whatever you want to call it, are bullish Intel, right? So maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes I don't like to be where everybody's going, right? I don't want to be part of the stampede. Sometimes it works out. Maybe this is the case, it does. But I was considering adding some more strikes. I'll just hold my 26s, and maybe some more follow through next week, I'll add some more strikes. But you take a look, the chart looks nice for a move up to 27. So you had that big move to start February up to 27, reversal all the way down under 20. Then you have the CEO announcement. Now we're kind of like at that midpoint. So maybe some consolidation off yesterday's gap, and maybe that's a positive spin. So I'll continue to hold those. VKTX was actually at 31.50 into the early afternoon. Has since come back a little bit. Premiums are kind of leaking a little bit on the calls, despite the stock being up from where I bought the calls, up 4% today. It was up even higher before. Still like this into next week. Nice little setup. Not only the 50-day moving average right there at 32.60. So if that gets some legs, I think it's trading over 35 plus next week. And then this boggles my mind is TKO. Maybe I'll have to dig deeper. Thankfully, I didn't add some strikes for a bounce. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it was up like 3 or 4% at the open, so I missed it. I'm like, oh, good. Not good. I missed the opportunity to add some calls, and then it reversed, and boom, it was just hitting lows a little while ago. It was back into the red. So maybe it has more to go. Maybe it's going down as 200-day moving average. So possibly might put that on the. I'll keep it somewhat on the watch list, but I'll keep it on just the watch part, not the add part, until I can figure it out better. Then some other names, and I think it's important. I put that list in the chat room. There's a channel. It's called Bounce Ideas. It's kind of like the sixth one down, sixth category. I think maybe I'll have another channel on put ideas too, because I think it's important when things are moving quick. Don't want to be overreacting, right? You want to have kind of like a menu of options that you can get options on, right? Take a look at Restoration Hardware. This thing is pinching like nobody's business. If the SPY is pinching, this is like 3 times pinching. I don't know how to put it. Pinching squared. Whatever you want to call it. It's pinching to the fourth power. I don't know it just Doesn't mean, again, doesn't mean it's going to reverse, but if it does, it's going to be massive. And again, some of these names in some of these sectors have been beaten up because of the tariffs. There has to be some kind of impact, whether it be minuscule, short term, or what have you. And I don't know where RH procures most of their stuff. You would have to think some of the furniture is manufactured elsewhere and things like that. So I don't know if that's some of the reason, but on the flip side, certainly looks like it's going to pinch. Gosh, I remember trading this thing when it was $30. Huge short interest, and then of course I missed it when it broke over 100. I missed the rest of the run all the way. Anyway, rants for other days. That's RH. URI looks like maybe it's going to start to go here. So that one's not really pinching, but it looks like it's consolidating. And if we can do some follow through, maybe Monday, Tuesday, get 630 somewhere in there, 635. Just the premiums are expensive, so tough to trade. But I'll be watching that one. And then on the flip side, I'll continue to watch some possibilities for hedge positions on breaks of support. I mean, if we get over 563, that'll probably be the next line. But I would expect maybe a little bit of follow through next week, pending any crazy headlines. And that's it, folks. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll be back. Rock and roll.